At the age of 22, ZywOo has already accumulated number 1 and number 2 best CSGO player on HLTV. Twice. Each. And he, title card, y'all already know what's up. Let's get into how to be consistent in Counter-Strike. But before we start, let's first define consistency. This sounds like it should be obvious, but I want to clarify what we are talking about first. There are two types of consistent performances that we look for in a player, which is either statistical consistency, how often you get yourself up on the leaderboard, how consistently you get kills, basically great quantitative stats when we look at player performance, regardless on how they achieve those stats. The second type is efficiency, how well you do with what you are given in your role, if you can perform the right play on a regular basis, if you are clutch when it matters most, traits that put the stats into a favorable context when we look at a player. Because if you mainly play mid, ancient, and for some reason play B Mirage as well, your kill stats are not going to be as high on Mirage as compared to ancient since you are playing a much less impactful spot. In this video, I'm going to be mostly looking into statistical consistency since that is what most of you are after, so some of the kills in these demos are going to be ugly, but hey, if you get on top of the scoreboard, it clearly isn't your fault. So let's go. First thing that I have to mention is crosshair placement. Normally this would go against the theme of the intangibles of Counter-Strike, since crosshair placement directly helps with aim, and I don't really like talking about aim and would rather talk about everything else, but I can't help it. Having great crosshair placement is the key to consistency. If you want to have great crosshair placement, the best way is to aim in a much slower, more methodical approach like ZywOo, Nico, or Device, rather than the flick-heavy flasher style of Monacy, Simple, or Scream. That's not to say that those three don't consistently put up numbers, but the amount of skill and effort needed to hone your aim to their level is absurd. Focusing on your crosshair placement will net you more kills, since flicking is far less reliable than just having your opponent exist in your crosshairs. That's also not to say that crosshair placement takes less skill, it just takes far less mechanical skill. What you don't have to worry about in raw aim, you have to make up in game sense. Now, there is no shortcut to game sense. You will have to log thousands of hours to get attuned to the timings of each map and what responses your opponents will have to each of your strats. Or is there? Sure, completely mastering all the maps in regards to timings or player interactions is a long and tedious endeavor, and even then most Counter-Strike players only really play 3 to 5 maps. But you can greatly accelerate this process on CT side by only playing one spot on one map, or better yet, one role across all maps. Now, the greatest impact spot is the rotator position, such as mid on most maps, arch on Inferno, garage or ramp room on nuke depending on where the T's rush, etc. By playing rotator spots, you can extend your influence onto sites as you only have to travel half the distance to assist with a rush, and in a post-Astralis meta of defaults and slow executes, if you want to get more frags and be able to affect the game much more frequently. With that premise out of the way, I'm going to talk about game sense more generally on the CT side than just in the context of crosshair placement, because ZywOo has a seriously good read on the games that he plays. I know that's a bit ironic considering his recent pro performances, but let's be real, that's more likely due to growing pains from transitioning to CS2 and the fact that the op is kinda terrible right now. His game sense is very apparent whenever he utilizes his teammates. Take Ancient Mid for example. For a majority of the rounds, he is going to play in Donut, oftentimes pushing up to Xbox, while his teammate, who happens to be former NIP Lekro, plays house or pushes up mid with him. Now what you will realize is that these two play naturally off of each other, constantly watching each other's backs. We can see this in round 2 as they cautiously run down mid after they throw the default smoke and molly, where ZywOo will watch for the cap push while Lekro throws an HE bottom mid. As Lekro looks towards cat, ZywOo instinctually looks bottom mid to hold for the potential push, and as Lekro crosses bottom mid and makes his way cat, ZywOo continues to hold bottom mid and smokes it out. Their teammate finds a frag onto one of the T's pushing B main, confirming a B push, which instead of ZywOo hunting for egos like most of us would, ZywOo continues to hold bottom mid as Lekro posts up cat, watching his back the entire time. This type of teamwork is especially impressive since these two aren't teammates in the pro scene, and judging by the speed of their actions, they can't have communicated every one of their plays to each other. Learning game sense to understand what your opponents might do is one thing, but to also learn what your teammates will do is a skill in its own right and will help you win a lot more games. Of course, their teamwork isn't always perfect, such as this nade play that ZywOo wants Lekro to facilitate, but Lekro doesn't react for a bit, and by the time Lekro throws the nade, the smoke is already fading. But in general, the ability to work with your teammates as efficiently and effortlessly as possible should be commended. Now, you might argue that having good teamwork is really easy when your teammate is a literal pro player, so let's take a look at some solo mid plays that ZywOo makes, where you can see that he exercised the same amount of caution that he would when playing with another person. He might look like a schizophrenic looking back and forth wildly like this, but it works, and you can't deny that. The lesson to take away here is not only about ZywOo's crosshair placement, but also his ability to isolate angles. If you want to learn more about that, I go far more in depth in the bit video, but the short and skinny of this particular situation is utilizing the wall underneath Cat to block off sightline from anyone who's trying to peek over. ZywOo crouches to give just a little bit more space to work with as he creeps around Xbox. After all of this, when he hears the flashbang and the footsteps of the Cat player, he is already in the perfect off angle to catch the Cat player off guard. Utilizing tricks like these may seem undependable since they can't be applied to every game, but if you have enough of them, you will start to find yourself comfortably executing them, and ZywOo has a lot of tricks like these that he has learned over the years. Take this clip on Vertigo for example. The round starts with a 5-man push into B stairs, where after 2 fights occur that end with each team being down 2 players, the bomb is dropped by toilets, and the T's are making their move to retrieve it. After the first T falls to ZywOo's teammate in T spawn, ZywOo swings out and sees the AWPer unprepared for him. ZywOo misses his shots, and now is stuck in the corner. Does he A. Swing out and try to take the 1v1, B. Wait for his teammates to help him out, or C. Hop on the toilet and shit on him? Although we like to look at tricks like these like, yeah, that's cool, that would be terrible to play against, and then never use that exact trick ever again, here's a player who takes the time to actually put these tips into practice and gets kills off of them. Like, look at this prehistoric flash trick. I haven't seen this in forever. Obviously, these are just 1 kill per game out of every engagement, but that's 1 kill more that ZywOo would have most likely not have gotten. The larger point is that although it is a great habit to default to one spot so that you can find mastery a lot faster, you have to learn how to be unpredictable in that one spot, especially if you are playing there every single round. There are only so many ways that you could change up your positioning, especially in a highly contested area such as Ancient Mid. So being able to pull out an unpredictable move will net you some additional value. Use them at your own risk, but if you're struggling to get onto the board, a few additional frags in a tilted opponent can help you get your confidence back. The final topic that I want to talk about is to not overcomplicate your movement. Other than that toilet jump, which doesn't even really take that much skill to execute, ZywOo does not b-hop during the round. He doesn't try to do multiple things at once, he just keeps things simple. Watch as he entries onto B. He walks up B stairs, pre-aims for the orange box's peak, and even after he misses, he doesn't overreact. He strafes once, then one taps the CT as he re-enters his crosshair. Continuing onto Catwalk, he pre-aims for Cooler, sees the flash, ducks behind cover to not get blinded. He then casually walks across the full length of Catwalk through his teammate's molly without panic, where he throws a molly to Cooler to flush out the CT, and then taps him. It's almost comical how simple ZywOo makes the game look, and it heavily contributes to how often he can secure kills on a game-to-game basis. And that's it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. And stay strong, brothers. We'll get through this month.